everybody. Hi, Tony. First 1 year. Oh, you got a hole in it. You got a hole in the squeaker back here. Chris. You got a hole in it. Thank you. So I know it's an AA meeting, but I was just talking. So this is a normal size lamb that I get for Ryder. I'm not sponsored by this toy company or anything, but so this is his favorite lamb. This is the second one he's had. We have one in the closet waiting. And so I was like, we were at the store yesterday and I was thinking we need to get him a new toy, something different. I saw this. It is different, but the same. This one has 5 squeakers in it. And he tries to carry this thing everywhere. So, yeah. He loves it. Anyways, this is an AA meeting. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Sandra, and I'm an alcoholic. And please be mindful in the comments and the chat. There's no judgment in this meetings. Don't go to each other's pages and harass each other or be rude to each other in the comments or in the chat. They could be here for supporting my channel, or maybe they are here for a friend or family member to, having some help from outside the family who's been through it on how to be around someone that is working on becoming sober. Because it's not all rainbows and butterflies. Anyway. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It's been a long week. A lot of appointments this week. One, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. 7, humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continue to take personal inventory and when wrong, promptly admit it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Sorry. Tired. A long day, a long week. Anyways, I do put in the description what book I'm reading, the page number, and the title of what we're reading. I'm in a 4th edition, so you're probably going to be on a different page if you have a different edition of the book. So that's why I put the story that we're reading. And the page number is 553. And it is AA taught him to handle sobriety. AA taught him to handle sobriety. God willing, we may never again have to deal with drinking, but we have to deal with sobriety every day. When I had been in AA only a short while, and an old timer told me something that has affected my life ever since. AA does not teach us how to handle our drinking. He said it teaches us how to handle sobriety. I guess I always knew that the way to handle my drinking was to quit. After my very first drink, a tiny glass of sherry my father gave me to celebrate the new year when I was 13. I went up to bed, dizzy with exhilaration and excitement, and I prayed I wouldn't drink anymore. But I did. When I reached college age, much later, when I progressed to full blown alcoholism, people told me I should quit. Like most other alcoholics I have known, I did quit drinking at various times. Once for 10 months on my own, and during other interludes when I was hospitalized. It's no great trick to stop drinking. The trick is to stay stopped. Hey Lily, thank you for carrying me out. I do that. To do that, I had come to AA to learn how to handle sobriety, which is what I could not handle in the first place. That's why I drank. I was raised in Kansas, the only child of loving parents who just drank socially. We moved frequently. In fact, I changed schools every year until high school. In each new place, I was the new kid, a skinny, shy kid, to be tested and beaten up. As soon as I had begun to feel accepted, we moved again. By the time I reached high school, I was an overachiever, an honor student in college. I became editor of the yearbook. I sold my first article to a national magazine while still an undergraduate. I also began to drink at fertility parties and beer busts. Upon graduation, I ventured to New York to pursue my writing career. I landed a good job with a company publication and was moonlighting on other magazines, regarded as something of a boy wonder. I began to see myself that way. I also began visiting bars after work with my older associates. About age 22, I was a daily drinker. Then I joined the Navy and was commissioned as an ensign to write speeches for admirals. Later, I went to sea, serving as gunnery officer on a destroyer escort and emerging a lieutenant commander. I also got into my first disciplinary trouble caused by drinking on two separate occasions. In the last year of my Navy service, I was married to a lively girl who enjoyed drinking. Our courtship was mainly in bars and night spots when my ship was in New York. On our honeymoon, we had iced champagne by the bedside day and night. The pattern was set. By 29, I was having trouble coping with life because of my drinking. Neurotic fears plagued me, and I had occasional uncontrollable tremors. I read self-help books. I turned to religion with fever. I swore off hard liquor and turned to wine. I got sick with the sweetness and turned to ale. It wasn't strong enough, so I added a shot of vodka and was right back to worse trouble than before. I began sneaking drinks when playing bartender for guests. To cure my dreadful hangovers, I discovered the morning drink. The early promise of the boy wonder faded and my career began to drift. Although my ambitions still flickered, it now took the form of fantasizing. My values became distorted. The to wear expensive clothes, to have bartenders know what to serve me before I ordered, to recognize by head waiters and shown to the best table, to play gin rummy for high stakes with the indocilence, I don't know what that word is, of a riverboat gambler. These were the enduring values in life, I thought. Bewilderment, fear, and resentment moved into my life, and yet my ability to lie outwardly and to kid myself inwardly grew with every drink I took. Indeed, I had to drink now to live, to cope with the demands of everyday existence. When I encountered disappointments or frustrations, as I did more and more frequently, my solution was to drink. I had always been oversensitive to criticism and was actually acutely so now. When I was criticized or reprimanded, the bottle was my refuge and comfort. When I was faced with a special challenge or social event, such as an important business presentation or a dinner party, I had to fortify myself with a couple of belts. Too often, I would overdo it and behave badly at the very time I wanted to be at my best. For instance, the 15th wedding anniversary of my wife's parents was the occasion for a huge family reunion at our home. Despite my wife's entreaties to take it easy, I arrived home in bad shape. I remember being dragged drink in hand, from under the grand piano where I had hidden to be locked in my room in disgrace. Above all, I was suffering inner pain because my performance and my accomplishments in life failed to live up to my own expectations of my life. I had to anesthetize that pain with alcohol. Of course, the more I drank, the more unrealistic my expectations became, and the poorer my performance, and the gap widened. So the need to drink grew still greater. At age 40, I developed a large lump in my potbelly, and I feared it was a tumor. The doctor pronounced it a badly enlarged liver and said that I had to quit drinking. I did. I went on the wagon with no outside help and with no real difficulty, except that I didn't enjoy life without drinking. I had to cope with the demands of everyday living without my comforter, my anesthetic, my crutch, and I didn't like it. So when my liver had discovered about 10 months, I was resumed drinking. At first, just one drink on occasion. Then drinks came more frequently. But when carefully spaced out, soon my drinking was as bad as ever, all day long, every day. But I was trying frantically to control it, and it had gone underground now. Because everyone knew I shouldn't be drinking. Instead of drinking in fancy bars and clubs, I had to carry a bottle of vodka in my briefcase, duck into public toilets, and gulp from the bottle, trembling in order to keep from falling apart. Over the next 2 years, I sickened rapidly. The enlargement of my liver degenerated into cirrhosis. I vomited every morning. I could not face food. I suffered frequent blackouts. I had severe nosebleeds. Bruises appeared mysteriously over my body. I became so weak I could barely drag myself around. My employer gave me one warning, then another. My children avoided me. When I awoke in the middle of the night with shakes and sweats and fears, I would hear my wife weeping quietly in bed beside me. My doctor warned me that if I kept on, I might have esophageal hemorrhaging and die. But now all my choices was gone. I had to drink. What my doctor had warned me about finally happened. I was attending a convention in Chicago and carousing day and night. Suddenly I began vomiting and losing rectally great quantities of blood. Hopeless now, I felt it would be better for my wife, my children, and everyone in my life if I went ahead and died. I found myself being lifted onto a stretcher and whisked away in an ambulance to a strange hospital. I awoke next day with tubes in my arms, in both arms. Within a week, I was feeling well enough to go home. The doctor told me that if I ever took another drink, it might be my last. I thought I had learned my lesson. but my thinking was still confused, and I was still unable to deal with everyday living without help. Within 2 months, I was drinking again. In the next half year, I experienced two more esophageal hemorrhages, miraculously surviving each one by a hair. Each time I went back to drinking, even smuggling a bottle of vodka into the hospital as soon as the blood transfusions had ceased. My doctor finally declared he could no longer be responsible for me and sent me to a psychiatrist who practiced in the same suite of offices. He happened to be, by the grace of God, Dr. Harry Thibault, the psychiatrist who probably knew more about alcoholism than any other in the world. At that very time, he was a non-alcoholic trustee on the General Service Board of Alcoholics Anonymous. It was the late Dr. Thibault that then who persuaded me to seek help through AA. I acquired a sponsor and began attending meetings, but continued to drink. Within a few days, I found myself drying out on a drunk farm. While there, I read the Big Book and the Grapevine, and began the slow road back to health and sanity through the recovery program of AA. As the sober days grew into sober months and then sober years, a new and beautiful life began to emerge from the shambles of my former existence. The relationship between my wife and me was restored to a love and happiness that we had not shown even before my alcoholism because it became acute. She no longer weeps in the night. As our children grew up, I was able to be a father to them when they most needed one. My company advanced me rapidly once my reliability was established again. Regaining my health, I became an avid jogger, sailor, and skier. All of these things and many, many more AA gave me. But above all, it taught me how to handle sobriety. I have learned how to relate to people before AA. I could never do that comfortably without alcohol. I have learned to deal with disappointments and problems that once would have sent me right to the bottle. I have come to realize that the name of the game is not so much to stop drinking in many places, I skipped some. I have come to realize that the name of the game is not so much to stop drinking as to stay sober. Alcoholics can stop drinking in many places in many ways, but Alcoholics Anonymous offers us a way to stay sober. God willing, we members of AA may never again have to deal with drinking, but we have to deal with sobriety every day. How do we do it? By learning through practicing the 12 steps and through sharing at meetings how to cope with the problems that we look to booze to solve. Back in our drinking days, for example, we are told in AA that we cannot afford resentment and self-pity. So we learn to avoid these festering mental attitudes. Similarly, we rid ourselves of guilt and remorse as we clean out the garage or garbage from our minds through the fourth and fifth steps of our recovery program. We learn how to level out the emotional swings that got us into trouble, both when we were up and when we were down. We are to taught to differentiate between our wants, which are never satisfied, and our needs, which are always provided for. We cast off the burdens of the past and the anxieties of the future. As we begin to live in the present, one day at a time, we are granted the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, and thus lose our quickness to anger and our sensitivity to criticism. Above all, we reject fantasizing and accept reality. The more I drank, the more I fantasized everything. I imagined getting even more hurts and rejection. In my mind's eye, I played and replayed scenes in which I was magically from, plucked magically from, the bar where I stood nursing a drink and was instantly exalted to some position of power and prestige. I lived in a dream world. AA led me gently from this fantasizing to embrace reality with open arms, and I found it beautiful. For at last, I was at peace with myself and with others and with God. To those now in its fold, Alcoholics Anonymous has made a difference between misery and sobriety, and often the difference between life and death. AA can, of course, mean just as much to uncounted alcoholics not yet reached. Therefore, no society of men and women ever had a more urgent need for continuous effectiveness and permanent unity. We alcoholics see that we must work together and hang together, else most of us will finally die alone. The 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous are, we AA believe, the best answer that our experience has yet given to those ever urgent questions. How can AA best function? And how can AA best stay whole and so survive? On the next page, AA's 12 traditions are seen in their so-called short form. The form in general use today, this is considered a condensed version of the original long-form AA traditions as first printed in 1946, because the long form is now explicit and of possible historic value, it is also reproduced. Hi, Risa. So it goes into the 12 traditions. I'm not going to read all of those tonight, but that is the big book. So we in AA, like it explains, is we here in AA have to learn how to live with sobriety, not to not drink. We have to figure out how we can go about our day working in sobriety, because if you constantly go every day and you're thinking of ways that you're going to stay sober that day instead of how many ways you're going to go and get that drink, it works. It's flip-flop. And it's the truth. A lot of us don't know that, what it means to live in sobriety, because we didn't think about that before. But it's how AA works. It does all kinds of things to help us to get through those spots that so many of us get stuck on. And there's so many stories that they all intertwine and they're the same in different ways. And I see over there, you too, in Facebook world. But to be part of something bigger than me in sobriety is humbling, because you don't think that there's anybody that relates to who you are or where you've been or how you're trying to survive and navigate through a crazy world, a long life, and stay sober through it all and stay sane and not go back out. But one of the always things that I think about is, if I go and take that first drink, I know where it's going to take me. It's going to take me right down to where I don't want to be, that I have fought for 11 years to stay. It's not been an easy ride. It's been a bumpy, rocky, crazy ride. But I have managed to stay on the bandwagon and not jump off. And it's by working AA steps in every day. Sure, I get aggravated at work. I swear at the machines, I cuss up a storm, and I stomp my feet, and I act like a brat. But I snap back, and I'm like, that's just stupid. Why are you doing that? You have people looking at you, and you're stone sober. Why? Why are you doing that attitude? And that's what brings me back is, that's my little flaw of I can be a brat when things get on my nerves. And I always have to think about staying sober in everything. Because if I drink, it's going to be chaos. And I don't want chaos. I just choose to work my program every day and just keep going and don't take one day for granted, because that could be the day you slip off. And going back to where I was before is not an option. I don't want to be that person. Sometimes I don't want to be me right now, but I'm being me and being honest. If people don't like me, that's their choice. I like me myself, and that's what counts. So, but I don't know if I'm gonna. I'd like to figure out how to get Grapevine So I can read some of the stories in the magazines and change up a meeting other than always reading the same books over and over and over again, because I know that can get boring. For me, it gets boring in a meeting and we're reading the same thing. But, I mean, that's what I've done the whole time I've been in AA. Read these 2 books. And that's why I know the steps by heart, because I keep reading them and keep reading them and keep reading them. 11 years worth of it. And I have not been happy on all days of sobriety. That's unrealistic because we still have our character flaws that we don't completely get rid of. We still have those little attitudes, that aren't going to change on a whim. I mean, we still have our personalities. It's the learning to live that way and not be in a bad space all the time. And working my steps every day in everything I do, it brings me to calmness and to remember that I'm sober and I'm going to stay that way. And I have friends and family members that will help me through it. And I have my AA meetings that I can go to, and I have my sponsor that I talk to. I don't talk to her all the time, but she's always here in my chat. So on either side, Facebook or YouTube, I mean, she knows what's going on normally. But she has been a great sponsor to me. Anytime I've needed her, she's answered her phone. If I need to see her, I go to her house. I don't even have to call and say I'm coming. But it's just better to let her know I'm coming so that way she doesn't leave. But that's happened a couple times. Miscommunication. That's normal for everybody. One of my main what's it called? Yeah, duties, I guess, is sharing AA out everywhere possible. Not being scared to say that I'm a recovering alcoholic. Knowing that I have those people in those rooms that I can rely upon to not judge me in a meeting or outside of a meeting. It takes courage for somebody to put themselves out there, and I get it. It's not easy. I did not think that I was going to get anything out of AA ever. That was not my plan at all. But it became the plan. It became bigger than me, myself. And that's because I made it that way. I made the choices for myself to stay sober, to get sober, stay sober, and just live life as it comes. And, it is what it is. And I have today, just like you all have today. Even if it's your first meeting, you have today. I don't have to know if it's your first meeting, your third meeting, or how long you've been sober. That's not why I do this service work. There's the word I needed, service work. But the reason I do the service work is because I got it for free, and that is service work. And just knowing that I am reaching other people, I don't need to know who or where or who, any of that. All I know is reaching somebody. And that's the purpose of AA. Reaching the next one who needs help. And if you're new, you're welcome here. You're welcome in the AA rooms no matter what. And if you can only find an NA meeting, that works too. I've been to both, and they basically are the same. So even if all you can find at that moment is an NA meeting, go to it. They're not going to judge you in there either. So that's the whole purpose, is non-judgment. And a lot of us who have been out there drinking are worried that we're going to be judged in those rooms, and I'm here to tell you, not happening. And anonymity, or however you say that, that stands for a reason. If somebody wants somebody else to know that they're in AA or NA, that's that person's place to say so. And so if you're not in my chat or not in the comments, I understand not a lot of people are willing to just out themselves on the internet. The only reason I do is because I reach friends and family members that can't get to those meetings. And that's why I do them here. And so that's my service work. And I have you guys to thank for helping me reach out here on these platforms that we get for free. And I don't. So here's to us. Another day sober. I love you guys, and thank you for letting me do these meetings here for you guys and for being here. So, but remember, if you're struggling, look up a meeting. Call a friend. Maybe they know who to call. If you don't, it's everywhere. So you're not alone. There's a lot of us that dealing with the same thing, and you never know if it's that meeting that'll help you. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. Love you guys.